A little while ago, I made a video on all of the 10-second cars in GTA 5 Online. I thought it was pretty cool, but then I realized nobody really does quarter-mile races in this game. They usually head to the airport, and they do a full drag race all the way down the runway. So in today's video, we are going to be seeing which are the best cars to use in that drag race. So I hope you guys enjoy, and without further ado, let's get into it. It's pretty simple to understand. All of the cars are going to start right here at the starting line and just drag race all the way down to the finish line that you can see way down there. And I'm going to be timing every single one of them, and I've calculated it to the 10th of a second from exactly when they launch to exactly when they cross the finish line, and I'm sure some of you guys will be surprised by some of the outcomes. So with that said, let's take a look at some of the cars we're going to be testing out today. The vehicles we're going to be testing today are going to be the Vigilante, the SCRAMJET, the ZR380, the Krieger, the HAKUCHOU Drag, the SHOTARO, the RAIDEN, the DigiZani, the PR4, the BR8, the Italy GTO, the Italy RSX, the Tesseract, the Neon, the Cyclone, and the PARIAH. If you guys remember watching the 10-second car video that I did, all of the cars in this video are actually the top 16 best cars from that video. They all did amazing and they have great quarter-mile times. So let's see how they perform now going down the airport runway, because if you were to do a drag race, you'd most likely do it here. So let's get into it. So in last place is going to be the SCRAMJET. It's going to fall into 17th place out of all of these vehicles. It could do the quarter mile in about 10.28 seconds, which is actually really good, and also that's without using a boost. Now in this airport drag race, it got a time of 18.98 seconds, which isn't an amazing time compared to the other cars in this video, but compared to all of the other vehicles in GTA 5, it still did pretty well. Overall though, out of all of the vehicles here, it finished in 17th place. In 16th place, we have the Apocalypse, Nightmare, or Future Shock ZR380. It got a quarter mile time of 10.35 seconds, which is pretty great. But in terms of this drag race, it got a time of 18.09 seconds, which is not as great. You would expect it to do a little better since its top speed is 140 miles per hour. But then again, that is if you use the NOS. If you don't use NOS, it's definitely not going to go that fast, which of course I did not use NOS in this race. But it still did okay compared to all of the other vehicles in the game, but in this video, it's at the bottom. In 15th place, we have the PR4. Some of you guys are probably like, what the hell is an F1 car doing here? Well, it actually did pretty well. In terms of the quarter mile, it did a time of 10.34 seconds, which is not that bad. But in this drag race, it got a time of 18.05 seconds, which is why it finished in 15th place. The acceleration off the line is not the best, but once it gains traction, it really takes off. Finishing 15th overall is still pretty decent, but it's definitely not the best in this video. In 14th place, we have the Vigilante. It has a quarter mile time of 10.16 seconds, which is pretty great. But in terms of this drag race, it got a time of 17.99 seconds, which means it's 14th overall out of all the vehicles in this video. It's still not that bad though. It has a lot of cool features, and if you use that rocket boost, which of course I'm not using during this test, you will absolutely demolish. During this specific race, you should be able to use it at least 3 times, and you will fly. Next up, in 13th place, we have the Coil Raiden. It got a quarter mile time at 10.29 seconds, and in this airport drag race, it got a time of 17.82 seconds, which is why it finished in 13th place. It's definitely not the best electric car we have. It's honestly pretty average. It's not the worst, it's not the best, it's just chilling there in the middle, which is why it finished in 13th place overall out of all of the other vehicles in this video. Next up, in 12th place, we have the Neon, which got a quarter mile time of 9.95 seconds. Yes, it is a 10-second car in GTA 5, but electric cars, they have a set top speed, so once it reaches that point, it won't go any faster. And in this race, it had a time of 17.8 seconds, which isn't all that great. Acceleration is amazing. In short drag races, it's great. But if you bring it to the airport and use it in one of these drag races, right at the end, a lot of cars are going to pass you. And that's why it finished in 12th place. Next up, we have the BR8, one of the only open wheel cars to get under a 10-second quarter mile. It had a time of 9.94 seconds. But in this race, it got a time of 17.16 seconds, finishing in 11th place. There's a pretty big gap between 11th and 12th place by about half a second, or just a little bit more than that, which is pretty great. So any of the cars you see here from now on are going to be pretty great cars to use in drag races, but I would suggest picking one of them in the top 3. But the BR8 still did pretty well, finishing in 11th place. Next up, we have the Tesseract, finishing in 10th place in this video. It got a time on the quarter mile of 9.95 seconds, which is pretty great. But like I said, with electric cars, they have a set top speed, and if that top speed isn't super high, it's not going to do great. It got a time of 17.13 seconds in this race, which is why it finished at 11th place. In short drag races, it's great, but in the long runs at the airport, it definitely is not the best. In 9th place, we have the Italy GTO. It got a quarter-mile time of 10.3 seconds, but in this drag race at the airport, it gets a time of 17.12 seconds, which is pretty great, literally 0.01 seconds faster than the Tesseract. The Tesseract is still pretty decent, but the Italy GTO beat it just by a little bit, getting that 9th place spot. It's an amazing vehicle, and it's a pretty decent car to use in drag races. Next up, we have the Krieger. It finished in 8th place. It got a quarter-mile time of 10.67 seconds, but in this race, it got a time of 17.11 seconds, which is pretty damn good. It beat out the GTO by 0.1 seconds. It beat out the Tesseract by 0.2 seconds, which is kind of crazy. It's those top speeds that really make a difference in these drag races. The Krieger did pretty decent, finishing in 8th. Next up, finishing in 7th place, we have the Devastator with a quarter-mile time of 10.43 seconds. But in the airport drag race, it'll get a time of 17.09 seconds, which is pretty great. A lot of people love this car. I know it has a great top speed. I know it has a great acceleration as well. So in drag races, it performs very, very well in the top 50% for this video. So the Devastator is definitely a good choice to use in drag races, but it's not the best. Next, we have two cars tied for 5th place. First is the RSX with a quarter-mile time of 10.3 seconds, and in this race, finishing with a time of 17.07 seconds, tied for 5th, which is pretty great. This car has an amazing top speed, great handling. It's hands down my favorite sports car to use in races, and even for supercar races, I would rather use this thing because I'm pretty sure it would slap most of the supercars in this game. It did amazing, tying for 5th. Also tied for 5th, we have the Pariah with a quarter-mile time of 10.16 seconds. It finished this race in a time of 17.07 seconds as well. This car does not have the best acceleration off the line, but once it gets traction, this thing just disappears, and its top speed is insane. So if you can get that perfect launch, you'll be good to go, and you could slap a lot of other vehicles. By the way, be sure to check out DigiZani. They'll hook you up with tons of discounted games, gaming accessories, discounted gift cards, and in-game currency for dozens of your favorite games. Don't forget to use code Frolics at checkout for a 10% discount. Next up, if you feel like using a motorcycle, 4th overall, the SHOTARO, finishing with a quarter-mile time of 10.45 seconds, and in this race, finishing with a time of 17.04 seconds. We all know this thing is amazing, and if you take it to a drag race and you want to use a great motorcycle, if you want to spend the $2 million, the SHOTARO will do outstanding, finishing 4th overall in this video, which is just insane. In 3rd place, we have the HAKUCHOU Drag, finishing with a quarter-mile time of 10.89 seconds, but in this race, it got a time of 16.99 seconds. If this thing did not come in the top 3, I would have been pretty pissed, because it's literally a drag motorcycle, so it has to do well, which it did. So if you want to use a cheaper motorcycle, not super cheap, but cheaper than the SHOTARO, the HAKUCHOU Drag will do wonders for you. It's outstanding in drag races. Technically in 2nd place, we have the Pariah again with a good launch, but this could also be a lot of different cars, because if you launch the car perfectly, you will do a lot better in the drag race, obviously. If you launch properly with the Pariah, you'll get a time of 16.89 seconds, finishing 2nd overall, which is still really great. We'll talk about the perfect launches more after we go over the best car. And in 1st place, we have the CYCLONE. It finished with a quarter-mile time of 9.82 seconds, way better than any other car. And in the airport drag race, it finished with a time of 16.26 seconds, finishing in 1st place. The acceleration on this thing is insane. The top speed is pretty decent as well, but it's that acceleration that it has to get to that top speed. It reaches it so damn fast, and it finished in 1st. This is definitely the car you want to bring to a drag race. Before we end off the video, like I was talking about with that perfect launch with the Pariah, you could do that with every car in the game and literally just get better times in terms of quarter miles and drag races. There's a link down below in the description to help you guys out. It's in that video. Trust me, it's worth watching, because you definitely want to learn this if you're into racing. And of course, you could also do wheelies with muscle cars if you're really good at that, but sometimes it doesn't work out too well, which is why I didn't include it in this video. But if you're good at doing it, definitely do it, because then you'll absolutely slap. I know one really good car to do it with is the Tulip. It will absolutely demolish every other car as far as I know. I would use that one if you guys want to. It's amazing at doing wheelies. Anyways, hopefully this video helped you guys out if you guys were looking for an amazing car to drag race with. Like I said, the Tulip is amazing only if you could do that wheelie with it. If you can't, it's definitely not the best. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.